Quiet, Daddy. They're listening. And the millionaire froze upon seeing the door. Marcus Henderson was reviewing the company's latest contracts when he felt a small hand touch his arm. Turning around, he found his 5-year-old daughter Emma, her eyes wide with worry. The girl approached him with cautious steps, constantly looking at the slightly open office door. Her rosy cheeks were paler than usual, and she held her favorite doll tightly against her chest. "Daddy, I need to tell you something important," whispered Emma, climbing onto the chair next to the work desk. Marcus smiled, thinking it would be another one of his daughter's inventive little stories. She always had a vivid imagination and loved creating fantastic adventures during her playtime around the mansion. "Daddy?" the girl insisted, this time placing her small hand over his mouth. "Quiet, Daddy. They're listening." Marcus's smile vanished instantly when he noticed the seriousness in the child's eyes. Emma had never spoken to him that way. Something was definitely wrong. He froze upon seeing that the office door was indeed slightly ajar when he was certain he had closed it. Muffled voices echoed down the hallway, coming from the direction of the main living room. "Emma, what did you hear?" he asked in a low voice, following his daughter's instinct to keep the tone discreet. "Mommy is talking with Uncle Daniel," explained the girl, still whispering. "They said you can't know about something important." Worry grew in Marcus's chest. His brother Daniel had arrived from a trip the previous morning and was staying at the house. In recent months, he seemed more distant and worried, but Marcus had attributed that to the problems his brother was facing in his own company. "What kind of thing, sweetheart?" he asked, bending down to be at his daughter's eye level. Emma looked at the door again before answering. "They talked about important papers that you keep, and that Uncle Daniel needs to find something before you discover it." Marcus's heart raced. The only truly important papers were in the office safe, documents related to the most confidential contracts of his construction company. "Are you sure about what you heard, Emma?" The girl nodded with conviction. "They don't know I was playing under the living room table. Mommy said you work a lot and don't notice what happens at home." That sentence hit Marcus like a punch. It was true that in recent weeks he had been intensely dedicated to some important projects, but he always tried to reserve time for the family. And what else did they say? He tried to stay calm so as not to scare his daughter. "Uncle Daniel said you trust people too much, and that could be a problem." Emma paused, as if trying to remember the exact words. "And Mommy got worried, asked if it was dangerous." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. His wife Rachel had always been a reserved woman, but lately she seemed even more distant. He had attributed it to the stress of taking care of the house and Emma, but perhaps there was something more. "Dangerous how?" he insisted gently. "I didn't understand well," admitted Emma, "but Uncle Daniel said some people at your company might be doing wrong things." Marcus's mind raced. He had recently noticed some minor irregularities in the financial reports, but his accountant had assured him they were just typos. Maybe Daniel knew something he didn't. "Emma, could you play in your room for a little while? Daddy needs to check on something." The girl hesitated. "You won't tell them I told, right? I promised myself it would be our secret conversation." "Of course not, sweetheart. It will be our secret," he assured, kissing his daughter's forehead. After Emma left, Marcus carefully approached the door to try to listen to the conversation. The voices were lower now, but he could clearly distinguish Daniel's voice. "Rachel, you need to understand I'm not making this up," his brother was saying. "Some of his employees have been embezzling money for months." "But why don't you tell Marcus directly?" Rachel's voice sounded anxious. "Because one of the people involved is someone very close to him. If I tell him without enough proof, he won't believe me, and our relationship could be damaged forever." Marcus felt the floor give way beneath his feet. Someone very close to him. Who could it be? His partner Jonathan had been a friend since college. His accountant had worked with the family for 15 years. His secretary Jennifer was the daughter of a close friend of Rachel's. "So what do you want me to do?" asked his wife. "I need to access some documents in his office, compare them with the information I've gathered. But I can't do it without your help." Marcus held his breath. Daniel wanted to go through his personal papers. As much as he trusted his brother, something about that situation didn't seem right. "I don't know, Daniel. Going through Marcus's things without him knowing. Rachel hesitated. Rachel, we're talking about your family's financial security. If I'm right, you could lose everything. Emma could lose the future Marcus is building for her. Hearing his daughter's name mentioned made Marcus clench his fists. No one had the right to use Emma as an argument in a discussion she wasn't even part of. He decided he had heard enough. He left the office and headed to the living room, trying to appear natural. "Hi, honey." Rachel was slightly startled when she saw him appear. "I thought you were working." "Finished for today," he said, observing both their expressions. "I was thinking if you'd like to go out for dinner tonight. It's been a while since we've done that as a family." Daniel and Rachel exchanged a quick, almost imperceptible glance, but Marcus noticed. "Of course, that would be great," Rachel agreed, but her smile seemed forced. "Actually, Marcus, I was talking with Rachel about some investments," Daniel interjected. "Maybe we could talk after dinner." "What kind of investments?" Marcus tried to sound casual. "Nothing specific yet, just ideas," Daniel averted his gaze. "You know how it is, always thinking about opportunities." Marcus knew his brother well enough to know when he was being evasive. Daniel had always been direct in his business dealings, never talked about vague ideas. "Sure, we'll talk later," he agreed. "I'll call Emma so we can get ready." As he climbed the stairs toward his daughter's room, Marcus couldn't get the conversation he had overheard out of his mind. What if Daniel was really trying to protect the family? But why such a secretive approach? He found Emma arranging her dolls in a row on the bed, each wearing a different outfit. "Daddy, are we going out?" she asked excitedly when she saw him. "We're going out for dinner. How about that pizza place you like?" Emma clapped her hands with joy, but soon her expression turned more serious. "Daddy, can I tell you something else I heard?" Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "Of course, my love." "Last night, when you were already asleep, I heard Mommy talking on the phone." Emma lowered her voice again. "She said she was worried about you, that you seem very tired lately." That touched Marcus's heart. He really had been working long hours these past few weeks, trying to close some important contracts before the end of the year. "And what else did she say?" "That she wanted to do something to help, but didn't know what," Emma paused. "And that Uncle Daniel said he knows people who can solve problems in companies." This new information left Marcus even more intrigued. What kind of people did Daniel know? And why hadn't Rachel mentioned this conversation to him? "Emma, when Uncle Daniel arrived yesterday, did you notice anything different about him?" The girl thought for a moment. "He seemed nervous, and he brought a big briefcase, like the one you take to work. But he put it in the guest room and told us not to touch it." Marcus always made a point of treating Daniel like a beloved brother. He had never suspected his intentions. But now, a series of small details was beginning to form a worrying picture. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "Daddy, are you okay?" Emma brought him back to reality. "You look worried." "I'm fine, Princess, just thinking about work," he lied, not wanting to involve the child further in that situation. "Shall we get ready for dinner?" While getting ready to go out, Marcus discreetly observed Rachel's behavior. She seemed more agitated than normal, changed her clothes twice, and checked several times if she had locked the bedroom door. In the car on the way to the restaurant, Daniel showed an unusual interest in Marcus's work routine. "How are the projects for the new residential neighborhood going?" he asked, although he had never shown much interest in his brother's business before. "Moving along well," replied Marcus, keeping the information vague. "Some bureaucratic challenges, but nothing out of the ordinary." "And the team? Have all the employees proven trustworthy?" The question sounded odd. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. You know how the construction market is, very competitive. There's always a risk of information leaks." Marcus looked in the rearview mirror and saw Emma playing with her doll, apparently oblivious to the adults' conversation. Rachel was looking out the window, lost in thought. "I've never had problems with my team," he finally said. "I've worked with most of them for years." Of course, just a comment." Daniel quickly changed the subject. "Emma, how is school?" The girl looked up from her doll. "Good. I'm learning to read big words." "How smart. You're going to be a great businesswoman like your daddy when you grow up." "I don't know," Emma replied thoughtfully. "Maybe I want to take care of animals or make yummy food like Grandma used to." The mention of the two brothers' mother brought a moment of nostalgic silence in the car. Mrs. Margaret had passed away 2 years prior, leaving Marcus the responsibility of caring for the family assets, since Daniel had always been more financially disorganized. "Grandma made the best chocolate cake in the world," said Daniel, and for the first time in days, his voice sounded genuinely emotional. "I have the recipe," commented Rachel. "I got it from her before. You know." "Maybe we can make it together one of these days," suggested Marcus, trying to lighten the mood. The restaurant was busy, but they managed to get a table in a more secluded corner. Emma was delighted with the drawing she could make on the paper covering the table while they waited for their order. "Daddy, can I have soda?" she asked with hopeful eyes. "Just a little bit," conceded Marcus, who was normally stricter about sweets and soda. During dinner, Daniel insisted on paying the bill, claiming he wanted to repay the hospitality. Once again, Marcus found the gesture strange, considering he knew about his brother's financial difficulties. "You don't have to, Daniel," he insisted. "You're my guest." "I won't take no for an answer," Daniel was firm. "It's the least I can do after everything you've done for me." Rachel remained silent throughout the discussion, nervously fiddling with her napkin. On the way back home, Emma fell asleep in the back seat. The silence in the car was almost palpable, broken only by the soft sound of the child's breathing. "Rachel, are you okay?" Marcus finally asked. "You seem worried about something." "I'm fine," she replied quickly. "Just tired." "If something is bothering you, you can talk to me. We've always talked about everything." Rachel exchanged another glance with Daniel in the rearview mirror, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Marcus. "It's nothing specific," she finally said, "just the normal worries of a mother and wife." Arriving home, Marcus carried Emma, still sleeping, to her room, careful not to wake her. As he laid her in bed and covered her with her favorite blanket, the girl murmured something unintelligible. "Dream of good things, princess," he whispered, kissing her forehead. Going down to the living room, he found Daniel and Rachel talking quietly on the sofa. They quickly separated when they saw him arrive. "Is Emma asleep?" asked Rachel. "Like an angel," Marcus confirmed. "She was exhausted after the busy day." "Marcus, how about we have a drink and talk a bit?" suggested Daniel. "It's been a while since we've had a conversation, just the two of us." "Sure," he agreed, though part of him would have preferred to go straight to the bedroom. "Rachel, don't you want to join?" "I'd rather take a bath and get ready for bed." She stood up. "You two make yourselves comfortable." When she went upstairs, Daniel headed to the kitchen and returned with 2 beers. He sat in the armchair opposite the sofa where Marcus had settled. "How have you been feeling lately, brother?" Daniel began. "Seems like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders." "You know how it is, lots of responsibilities." Marcus took a sip of his beer. "But nothing I can't manage." "I'm sure of that. You've always been the more responsible one between the two of us." Daniel paused. "But sometimes it's hard to see problems when you're too involved in the situation." "What kind of problems?" Marcus decided to be direct. Daniel hesitated for a long moment before answering. "Marcus, during my trip, I ended up meeting some people who know your company. And I heard things that worried me." "What kind of things?" "Rumors about irregularities in some contracts. Nothing confirmed, but from sources I consider reliable." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "Irregularities like what?" "Overbilling for materials mainly, and possible bid rigging." These were serious accusations that could completely destroy his reputation and company. "Daniel, are you sure about this information?" "As I said, they're rumors. But from people who have worked in the industry for decades." Daniel leaned forward. "The question is, do you completely trust all your employees?" The question echoed the words Emma had reported earlier. "I've always trusted them. Why would I doubt them now?" "Because money can corrupt anyone, brother, even those we've known for years." Marcus reflected on his closest employees. Jonathan, his partner, had always been honest in all business dealings. Jennifer, the secretary, was extremely organized and never showed interest in financial matters beyond her salary. The accountant, Howard, was a conservative and religious man who would never get involved in anything illegal. "Who specifically did they mention?" he asked. "I'd rather not give names without absolute certainty." Daniel took a sip of his beer. "But I think we should investigate discreetly." "How?" "By checking some documents, comparing values, looking for discrepancies." Daniel paused. "I could help. I have experience with auditing." Marcus knew his brother did indeed have auditing knowledge. He had studied accounting before getting involved in his own import business. "I don't know, Daniel. Investigating my own employees without concrete reason seems wrong. Brother, we're talking about your family's safety. If there really is something wrong, the longer we wait, the worse it could get." The mention of family safety made Marcus remember the words from Rachel that Emma had reported. Everything seemed to connect in a way that made him uncomfortable. "And how exactly would we do this investigation?" he asked. "We would need to access some specific documents, contracts, cost spreadsheets, correspondence with suppliers," Daniel listed. "Things you keep in the office. Most of that information is in the safe." "I figured. That's why we would need you to give me access to those documents." Marcus felt an alarm go off in his mind. Why was Daniel so insistent on accessing his confidential documents, and why didn't he simply suggest that Marcus check the information himself? "Let me think about it," he said finally. "It's an important decision." Of course, but don't take too long, brother. If there really is something wrong, each day that passes could make the situation worse." They finished their beers talking about more trivial matters, but Marcus couldn't get his brother's insistence on accessing his documents out of his mind. Later, in the bedroom, he found Rachel already in bed, flipping through a magazine. "How was the conversation?" she asked without looking up from the page. "Interesting." Marcus began to undress. "Daniel thinks there might be problems at the company." Rachel put down the magazine. "What kind of problems?" "Possible irregularities with some employees." Marcus watched his wife's reaction closely. "That's serious." She seemed genuinely concerned. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. First, I need to understand the situation better." "Did Daniel offer to help?" The question confirmed that Rachel already knew about the subject even before his conversation with Daniel. "Yes, he did." "And will you accept?" "I don't know. It's complicated to investigate people I've always trusted." Rachel was silent for a moment before speaking again. "Maybe it's better to know the truth, even if it's painful." "Why do you say that?" "Because our family is at stake, Marcus. Emma deserves to grow up with financial security." Again, their daughter was mentioned as an argument. Marcus began to suspect that the conversation between Daniel and Rachel had been longer and more detailed than he imagined. "Rachel, did Daniel talk to you about this before speaking with me?" She hesitated for a moment too long. "He briefly mentioned he was worried about some rumors." "And why didn't you tell me?" "Because he asked to talk to you first. He said it was better coming from him since he had more details." The explanation made sense, but something in Rachel's tone suggested it wasn't the whole truth. "Rachel, do you trust Daniel?" "He's your brother, Marcus. Of course I trust him." "But what if he's wrong? Or if he has other reasons for wanting to go through the company documents?" "What other reasons would he have?" Rachel seemed genuinely surprised by the question. Marcus realized he was being unfair to his brother without having concrete evidence of bad intentions. Perhaps his distrust was a result of accumulated work stress. "You're right," he admitted. "Maybe I'm being paranoid." "The important thing is to protect our family." Rachel moved closer to him in bed. "And if Daniel can help with that, I think we should accept." They lay down, embracing, but Marcus remained awake for hours, analyzing every detail of the day's conversations. Something didn't quite fit, but he couldn't identify exactly what it was. The next morning he woke to the smell of coffee and pancakes coming from the kitchen. Going downstairs, he found Emma sitting at the table, still in her pajamas, eating heartily. "Good morning, Daddy," she greeted cheerfully. "Mommy made star-shaped pancakes." "Good morning, Princess." He kissed the top of his daughter's head. "And where is Mommy?" "She went to get fresh bread for breakfast." Emma pointed toward the window. "Uncle Daniel went along to see the bakery." Marcus found it odd that the two had gone out together so early, but decided not to make anything of it. He poured himself some coffee and sat down next to Emma. "How did you sleep, my love?" "Good. I dreamed we were a family of little birds and we lived in a giant tree," she recounted excitedly. "You were a bird who built nests for all the families in the forest?" His daughter's imagination always enchanted him. "And was I good at my bird job?" "The best of all, but there was a mean bird who wanted to break the nests you made." The child's innocent story sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. Was it just a coincidence, or was Emma's subconscious processing the tensions she sensed in the family environment? And what happened to the mean bird? In the end, he wasn't really mean. He was just afraid of not having a nest for himself. Emma took a sip of her milk. "So you built a special nest for him and everyone became friends." The simplicity and childish wisdom touched Marcus deeply. Perhaps he really was being unfair to Daniel, interpreting his intentions as bad faith when they could be genuine concern. Rachel and Daniel returned animatedly, bringing warm bread and talking about the commercial spots in the area. "The bakery is excellent, Marcus," commented Daniel, "and the baker is a very nice gentleman who recognized the last name when Rachel introduced herself. He said you are very respected in the neighborhood," added Rachel, "that your company always meets deadlines and does quality work." The information pleased Marcus, but it also made him think that if his reputation was good in the neighborhood, perhaps the rumors mentioned by Daniel weren't so widespread after all. "Daddy, after breakfast can we play building little houses with the blocks?" asked Emma. "Of course, my love, but first I need to take care of a few things in the office." "Can I help?" "Not today, Princess. Daddy has to deal with boring grown-up papers." After breakfast, Marcus went to the office intending to review some specific contracts Daniel had mentioned. He wanted to check for himself if there were any irregularities before giving his brother access to the documents. Upon opening the safe, he noticed that some documents were in slightly different positions from how he usually organized them. He might have been imagining things, but he had always been very meticulous about organization. He took the contract for the latest residential project and began analyzing the figures. Everything seemed normal: material costs within market average, payments to suppliers properly documented, taxes correctly collected. He also checked some older contracts, always reaching the same conclusion: no apparent irregularities. He was so focused on the analysis that he didn't notice when Emma quietly entered the office. "Daddy," she whispered, "can I tell you one more thing?" Marcus was startled, but soon smiled upon seeing his daughter standing in the doorway with her characteristic serious expression. "Of course, come here." He motioned for her to approach. Emma ran to him and climbed onto his lap. "Last night, after you went up to sleep, I heard Uncle Daniel talking on the phone." "And what was he saying?" "He told someone that everything was going as planned." Emma paused to remember better. "And that he would soon have access to what he needed." Marcus's heart raced. "Are you sure about those words?" "Yes, I am. And he said a strange name. What was it again?" Emma made a concentrated face. "Oh, I remember. He said Jonathan." Jonathan was Marcus's partner. Why would Daniel be discussing Jonathan with someone on the phone? "Emma, did you manage to hear anything else?" "He said Jonathan didn't know anything yet, but that would change soon." The situation was becoming more and more confusing and worrying. Marcus decided he needed to confront Daniel directly, but first wanted to gather more information. "Sweetheart, where was Uncle Daniel when he made that call?" "On the back porch. I thought he was talking to himself, but then I realized there was someone on the other end of the line." "And was Mom nearby?" "No, she was taking a shower. I was going to get water in the kitchen when I heard." Marcus kissed his daughter's forehead. "Thank you for telling me, Emma. You are a very observant girl." "Daddy, are you worried about something?" He didn't want to lie to his daughter, but he also couldn't involve her in adult problems. Sometimes grown-ups need to sort out complicated situations, like when you have to share toys with your friends at school. "Oh, I see." Emma seemed satisfied with the explanation. "And in the end, everyone is happy, right?" "Exactly." "Okay then. Can I go play now?" "Yes, you can, Princess." After Emma left, Marcus decided to call Jonathan and see if there was any important news he didn't know about. "Jonathan, how are things at the office?" he asked when his partner answered. "All normal, Marcus. Why do you ask? I thought you were going to show up there today." "Change of plans. I'm working from home. Any news on the ongoing projects?" "Nothing special." "Oh, there is one interesting thing. I got a call yesterday from an auditing firm asking about our processes." Marcus's blood ran cold. "What firm?" "I don't remember the exact name, but the guy said it was a routine check for a possible future partnership." "And what did you say?" "That any audit would need to be authorized by you first. He said he understood, and that he would contact you directly." "Anything else?" "He specifically asked about the contracts for the Blossom Gardens residential neighborhood. Said it was an interesting reference for them." Marcus fell silent. Blossom Gardens was exactly the project he was analyzing when Emma came into the office. "Jonathan, didn't you think it was strange for someone to call asking about specific contracts?" "A little, but lately there have been a lot of partnership opportunities popping up. I thought it was just another one. Next time someone calls asking about our contracts, transfer the call directly to me, okay?" "Sure, no problem. Did something happen?" "Nothing specific. I just want to keep control over that information." After hanging up, Marcus was even more confused. Someone was investigating his company, but who? And what was the connection with Daniel? He decided to look for his brother for a direct conversation. He found him in the living room, flipping through a home decor magazine. "Daniel, can we talk?" "Of course." Daniel put the magazine down. "Is there a problem?" "Jonathan got a call yesterday from an auditing firm asking about our contracts. Do you know anything about that?" Daniel hesitated for a moment before answering. "Actually, yes. I was the one who asked an acquaintance to check some information." "Without consulting me." "Marcus, you said yesterday you would think about the investigation, but I was too worried to wait." "And what right did you have to investigate my company behind my back?" "The right of a brother who cares about his family." Daniel stood up. "Listen, maybe I was hasty, but the information I received was very serious." "What information exactly? I want to know everything." Daniel took a deep breath before answering. "A construction materials supplier told me that some contracts from companies in the region are being investigated for overbilling." "And was our company on the list?" "Not specifically, but the profile fit." Marcus felt a mix of relief and anger. "So, you created all this drama based on assumptions?" "Marcus, please try to understand my position. If I was wrong, no one would get hurt. But if I was right and did nothing, you could lose everything." The logic made sense, but the secretive approach still bothered Marcus. "And did you discover anything with this unauthorized investigation?" "Actually, yes. And it's good news." "How so?" "Your contracts are all in order. Fair prices, perfect documentation, reputable suppliers." Daniel smiled. "You can rest easy." Marcus should have been relieved, but something still troubled him. "If everything is fine, why did you seem so worried yesterday?" "Because I wasn't sure yet, and I'd rather find out I was being paranoid than see my family in trouble." The explanation seemed reasonable, but Marcus decided to ask one more test question. "Daniel, last night did you make any calls?" "Yes, to the auditor. I wanted to know if he had gotten the information." "And did he?" "Yes, that's why I'm at ease today. Everything is in order with your company." Daniel's version aligned with what Emma had overheard, but in a very different way than the child had interpreted. Perhaps it really was a matter of perspective. "I'm sorry for doubting you, Daniel," said Marcus sincerely. "It's hard not to be suspicious when someone messes with your business without you knowing. I completely understand. In your place, I would have reacted the same way." Daniel extended his hand. "Friends?" "Brothers," corrected Marcus, shaking the offered hand. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The relief Marcus felt lasted until the afternoon, when Rachel approached him in the kitchen with a worried expression. "Marcus, I need to tell you something," she said quietly, "about the conversation I had with Daniel." "What about it?" "It wasn't just about investigating irregularities in the company." Rachel looked around to make sure they were alone. He told me something about Jonathan. Marcus's heart raced again. What about Jonathan? Daniel said Jonathan has serious personal financial problems, gambling debts. Jonathan doesn't gamble. That's what we thought. But Daniel said he saw Jonathan a few times at an underground casino downtown. Marcus had known Jonathan for over 15 years. He had never shown any interest in gambling. He was always conservative with money. Rachel, are you sure Daniel isn't confusing Jonathan with someone else? He said he's sure, and that the debts are significant. Why wouldn't Jonathan come to me if he had financial problems? We've always been honest partners with each other. Maybe out of shame, suggested Rachel. You know how hard it is to admit addictions. Or maybe because it's not true. Marcus was getting irritated. Rachel, don't you think it's strange that suddenly Daniel shows up with a series of compromising information about people close to me? How so? First rumors about company employees, now Jonathan with gambling problems. Why would he be so well informed about people's lives here? Rachel fell silent, apparently considering her husband's observation. Maybe you're right, she finally admitted. But what if it's true? Jonathan is your partner. He has access to all the company accounts. And you think he would use company money to pay gambling debts? I don't know, Marcus. Desperate people do things they normally wouldn't. The conversation was interrupted by Emma, running into the kitchen. Mummy, can I have some juice? She asked, not noticing the tension between her parents. Of course, sweetie. Rachel poured a glass of orange juice for her daughter. Where's Uncle Daniel? On the phone again. Emma took a sip of the juice. This time in the living room. Marcus and Rachel exchanged worried looks. Emma, were you able to hear what he was saying? Asked Marcus. A little bit, the girl admitted. He said Phase 2 was going to start soon. Phase 2 of what? I don't know. Emma shrugged. He also said a name. What was it? Howard. Yeah, he said Howard. Howard was the company's accountant. Marcus felt a knot in his stomach. If Daniel was investigating Howard too, the situation was more serious than he had imagined. Emma, can you go play in the garden for a bit? Rachel asked. Mommy and Daddy need to talk. After the girl left, Marcus turned to his wife. Rachel, I need to know exactly everything Daniel has told you since he arrived here. Why all this suspicion? Because first he suggests there are irregularities in the company, then he says Jonathan has a gambling problem. Now he's investigating Howard too. Doesn't that seem like too much of a coincidence to you? Rachel thought for a moment. When you put it that way, it really does seem strange. What else did he tell you? That the situation was more serious than we initially thought. Rachel paused. And that maybe you were being deceived by people very close to you. People like who? He didn't want to name names at the time, said he needed to be absolutely sure. But now he's specifically mentioning Jonathan and Howard. That's true. Rachel seemed to notice the inconsistency. Why the change in stance? Good question. Marcus decided it was time to confront Daniel directly. I'm going to talk to him now. Marcus, what if we're wrong? What if he really is trying to protect our family? Then he won't mind answering a few direct questions. Marcus headed to the living room, where he found Daniel putting away his cell phone. Daniel, we need to have a serious talk. Of course. What kind of talk? About all these investigations you're doing without my knowledge. Daniel sighed. Marcus, I understand your frustration, but everything I'm doing is to protect you. Then explain to me why first you suggest vague irregularities at the company, then specify that Jonathan has a gambling problem, and now you're investigating Howard too. Because the information came gradually. Each new discovery led to other investigations. And who is providing this information? Contacts I have in the industry. Trustworthy people. I want names, Daniel. Marcus, I can't compromise my sources. They only helped me because they trust my discretion. The refusal to provide specific names made Marcus even more suspicious. So you want me to blindly believe accusations against my closest business partners, but I can't know where this information is coming from. They're not accusations, they're warnings, so you can protect yourself. Protect myself from what exactly? Daniel hesitated before answering. Marcus, there's a scheme being planned against your company. Jonathan and Howard are involved. What scheme? They plan to transfer company funds to personal accounts, claiming they are legitimate payments to shell vendors. The accusation was very specific and serious. How did you find out about this? One of the vendors who was approached to participate in the scheme told me. And why would he tell you and not the authorities? Because he's known our family for years and wanted to give me the chance to handle the situation internally first. The explanation had a plausible logic, but Marcus was still not convinced. Daniel, do you have any concrete proof of this scheme? Not yet, but I'm gathering evidence. How? Checking bank transactions, analyzing recent contracts, reviewing communications. And for that you need access to my personal documents? Unfortunately, yes. The evidence is in the company files. Marcus fell silent, analyzing the whole situation. On one hand, the accusations were too serious to ignore. On the other, Daniel's secretive approach and refusal to reveal his sources were concerning. Daniel, if what you're saying is true, why don't we go to the police together? Because we don't have enough proof yet, and because an official investigation could alert Jonathan and Howard, giving them time to destroy evidence. So what do you propose? That you give me access to the documents in the safe for a few hours. I promise I can gather all the necessary evidence. And if you find nothing, then I apologize for the trouble, and you can rest assured that you are safe. Marcus was about to agree when he remembered an important detail. Daniel, you said Jonathan has gambling debts, right? Yes. But yesterday you told me my contracts were all in order. If Jonathan is embezzling money, shouldn't there be irregularities in the documents? Daniel looked visibly uncomfortable with the question. Actually, I discovered the issues with Jonathan after the first check. They're more recent situations. How recent? From the last few weeks. And when were you planning to tell me about this? I wanted to be absolutely sure first. Marcus realized he was being led in circles. Each of Daniel's answers generated new questions, and the explanations were always too convenient. Daniel, I'm going to make a different proposal, he finally said. Tomorrow morning we'll go together to the company office. There you can check everything you want in my presence. Marcus, if Jonathan and Howard suspect the investigation, then we'll create a plausible excuse. We'll say you're considering going into business with us and need to understand the processes. I don't know if that's a good idea. It's my condition, Daniel. Either we do it this way or we don't do it at all. Daniel was silent for a long moment, clearly bothered by the proposal. All right, he finally agreed. But you need to guarantee me that you'll keep the true reason for the check confidential. Of course. And if we find something compromising, you'll let me lead the investigation to the end? We'll deal with that when the time comes. That night during dinner, Marcus discreetly observed Daniel's behavior. His brother seemed nervous, constantly fidgeting with his fork and avoiding direct eye contact. Emma, sensing the tension in the air, tried to cheer up the family by talking about her adventures at school. Today the teacher taught us about animal families, she said animatedly. Did you know that daddy penguins take care of the eggs while the mommies go get food? How interesting, sweetheart, replied Rachel, forcing a smile. And did you know some animals pretend to be hurt to protect their babies from predators? The child's innocent observation created an uncomfortable silence at the table. It's true, confirmed Marcus. Nature teaches important lessons about protecting the family. And about trust too, added Emma. The teacher said animals that live in groups need to trust each other. Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his chair. But sometimes, the little girl continued, some animals pretend to be friends when they actually want to steal food. Emma, how about you help me serve dessert? Interrupted Rachel, clearly trying to change the subject. Can I tell one more thing about the animals? Of course, Princess, said Marcus, curious to see where the child was going. The teacher said that children always know when their parents are worried, even when the parents try to hide it. The child's wisdom once again surprised Marcus. And what do the children do when they notice it? They try to help in whatever way they can, Emma smiled, like giving lots of hugs and making pretty drawings. You are a very smart girl, said Marcus, kissing his daughter's head. After dinner, while Rachel was giving Emma a bath, Marcus decided to make a few calls to check Daniel's information on his own. He first called Howard, the accountant. Howard, "How are the month-end closings going?" he asked casually. "Everything's normal, Marcus. We closed on time and within the projected budget. Any unusual activity in the accounts?" "Nothing that caught my eye. Why do you ask?" "Just curious. Have you noticed any different behavior in Jonathan lately?" "Jonathan? No, he's the same as always, punctual, organized, no big changes." "What about his personal accounts? Everything normal?" Howard hesitated. "Marcus, you know I can't discuss the partner's personal information without authorization. Of course, you're right, it was just a casual question. Has something happened that I should know about?" "Nothing specific. We'll talk tomorrow." The conversation with Howard revealed nothing suspicious. In fact, the accountant seemed genuinely surprised by the questions about Jonathan. Next, he called Jonathan. "Jonathan, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure, go ahead." "Do you have a habit of going to casinos or gambling houses?" Jonathan laughed on the other end of the line. "Marcus, you've known me for 15 years. When would I have the time or interest in games of chance?" "Never, not even occasionally. The only bet I make is on the numbers game at the corner store, and even that's rare. Why the question?" "Someone mentioned seeing you at a downtown casino. Must have mistaken me for someone else. I don't even know where those places are." Jonathan's answer sounded genuine. Either he was an extraordinary liar, or Daniel's information was incorrect. "Jonathan, are your personal finances okay?" "Stable. No luxuries, but no tight spots either." "Why all this concern?" "Nothing specific, just random conversations. Marcus, if something is bothering you, I'd rather you be direct with me. We'll talk better tomorrow. Can you come to the office a little earlier?" "Sure, no problem." After the calls, Marcus was even more confused. Neither Howard nor Jonathan showed any sign of suspicious behavior. In fact, both seemed genuinely surprised by his questions. He went upstairs to the bedroom and found Rachel putting Emma to sleep. "Daddy, can you tell me a story?" the girl asked. "Of course, what story do you want?" "The one about the princess who discovered the dragon wasn't mean, it was just scared." Marcus smiled. Emma's favorite stories always involved misunderstandings that were resolved with mutual understanding. "Once upon a time, there was a very smart princess who lived in a beautiful castle," he began. "One day, the adults in the castle became very worried because someone said there was a dangerous dragon in the forest. But the princess didn't believe it right away, did she, Daddy?" "Exactly. The princess decided to investigate on her own. And you know what she found? That the dragon was just lost and hungry." "That's right. And when the princess offered help instead of attacking, the dragon became her best friend. And everyone in the castle learned that sometimes people tell stories without knowing if they're true," Emma completed. "Very good. And what's the moral of the story?" "That we should always check things for ourselves before believing them," Emma yawned, "and that usually people aren't mean, they're just troubled." "Exactly, my love." Marcus kissed his daughter's forehead. "Now sleep well." As they left the room, Rachel commented in a low voice, "She's very perceptive for her age." "She is. Sometimes I get the feeling she understands the situation better than we do." "Marcus, have you made any decision about tomorrow?" "I'm taking Daniel to the office, as we agreed, but I've already spoken with Jonathan and Howard." "And?" "Neither of them showed any sign of suspicious behavior. Maybe they're good at hiding it. Or maybe Daniel is mistaken in his information, and if he is mistaken, what would his motivation be for creating this whole situation?" It was a question Marcus couldn't answer satisfactorily. "I don't know, Rachel. I hope to find out tomorrow." The next morning, Marcus woke up determined to resolve the situation once and for all. While having coffee, Daniel appeared in the kitchen already dressed and seemingly ready to go. "Good morning," he greeted. "Ready for the verification?" "Ready," confirmed Marcus. "But first I want to establish some ground rules." "What kind of rules?" "First, you only handle documents in my presence. Second, anything you find we discuss before taking any action. Third, if we find nothing suspicious, we definitively end these investigations." "I agree with the first two," said Daniel, "but the third is problematic." "Why?" "Because the absence of evidence in the documents doesn't mean there are no problems. Jonathan and Howard could be more careful than we imagine." "Daniel, do you understand your accusations are very serious?" If they're incorrect, they could destroy relationships years in the making, and if they're correct, they could save your company from ruin. Marcus sighed. Regardless of Daniel's motivation, he needed to discover the truth. "Let's go," he finally said. In the car on the way to the office, Daniel seemed nervous, constantly checking his watch and looking in the rearview mirrors. "Is everything all right?" asked Marcus. "Just anxious to resolve this situation," replied Daniel. "Daniel, regardless of what we discover today, I want you to know I appreciate your concern for our family. You're my brother, Marcus. I'll always want to protect you all." Arriving at the company office, Marcus noticed Jonathan was already there, as arranged. "Good morning," Jonathan greeted them as they entered. "Marcus, you didn't tell me Daniel was coming too." "Last-minute change," explained Marcus. "Daniel is considering some investments in the sector and wanted to get to know our processes better." "Interesting." Jonathan extended his hand to Daniel. "Pleasure to get to know you better." "The pleasure is mine," replied Daniel, but Marcus noticed a stiffness in his handshake. "Where shall we begin?" asked Jonathan cheerfully. "How about an overview of the ongoing contracts?" suggested Marcus, observing Daniel's reaction. For the next 2 hours, Jonathan explained each project in detail, showing contracts, cost spreadsheets, and timelines. Daniel asked specific questions, but nothing they came across seemed suspicious. "What about the financial side?" Daniel finally asked. "Howard should arrive in an hour," informed Jonathan. "He can explain that part better." "Actually," said Marcus, "how about we check some documents in my private office first?" "Of course," agreed Jonathan. "Do you want me to accompany you?" "Not necessary," Daniel replied quickly. "It's just bureaucratic procedures." In the private office, Marcus opened the safe and began showing the documents to Daniel. For an hour, they analyzed contracts, bank statements, and correspondence. "Did you find any irregularities?" asked Marcus after the analysis. Daniel seemed frustrated. "Not in the documents we saw, but that doesn't mean there aren't problems." "Daniel, you examined everything you wanted. What more do you need to convince yourself?" "Marcus, sometimes the most sophisticated schemes don't leave traces in official documents. So how do you intend to prove your accusations?" "By observing behaviors, checking personal transactions, investigating external contacts." Marcus began to lose patience. "Daniel, you're basically asking to spy on my employees without any concrete evidence of wrongdoing." "I'm asking to be cautious about your family's future." The discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Howard. "Good morning," greeted the accountant. "Jonathan said you wanted to review some numbers." "Howard," said Marcus, "this is my brother Daniel. He's interested in learning about our financial procedures." "Pleasure," Howard greeted Daniel cordially. "What kind of information are you looking for?" For the next hour, Howard presented detailed reports on the company's finances. Everything was organized, documented, and transparent. "Any specific questions?" offered Howard. "Actually, yes," said Daniel. "Do you make frequent payments to new suppliers?" "Occasionally, but always with all the necessary documentation. Marcus personally approves any new supplier." "And what about the amounts? Do they follow any specific pattern?" "They depend on the projects. Basic materials are cheaper. Special finishes cost more." Daniel asked several other technical questions, but Howard's answers were always consistent and well-founded. After Howard left, Marcus confronted Daniel again. "And now? You heard the explanations, saw the documents, checked the numbers. Did you find any evidence of the irregularities you mentioned?" Daniel was silent for a long moment. "Marcus, perhaps my sources were mistaken," he finally admitted. "Perhaps. Actually, I acknowledge I didn't find anything suspicious here. So you agree that Jonathan and Howard are honest people?" "Based on what I saw today, yes." Marcus felt a mixture of relief and irritation. "Daniel, do you realize the stress you caused our family with these unfounded accusations? I know, and I sincerely apologize, but I'd rather be wrong than see you in danger." "And about the rumors you initially mentioned? Perhaps they were about other companies in the sector, not specifically yours." Marcus sighed deeply. Although he was relieved to find there were no real problems in the company, he was frustrated by how Daniel had handled the whole situation. "Daniel, Next time you have concerns about my business, talk to me directly before creating elaborate investigations. You're right, it was an error in approach. And please, don't involve Rachel and Emma in business matters. They don't need to worry about problems that don't exist. Understood? On the way back home, Marcus reflected on the whole situation. On one hand, he was grateful to have a brother who cared about his safety. On the other, the secretive approach and specific accusations still bothered him. Daniel, can I ask you a personal question? Of course. How have your own finances been lately? Daniel hesitated before answering. Why do you ask? Curiosity. You mentioned you're interested in investments in the construction sector. Actually, I'm going through some difficulties, admitted Daniel. The import business isn't doing well. Why didn't you tell me? I've always helped you when you needed it. Pride, I suppose. And I didn't want to seem like I was taking advantage of your hospitality. Daniel, we're family. There's no taking advantage between brothers. I know. But sometimes it's hard to admit we can't solve our own problems. Marcus began to understand his brother's motivation better. Perhaps the whole situation was the result of financial stress and genuine concern, not bad faith. What kind of difficulties are you facing? Mostly cash flow, some overdue payments, creditors pressuring. Is it a temporary or structural situation? Honestly? That afternoon, back at the house, Marcus gathered Rachel and Emma in the living room for a family conversation. He wanted to clarify the whole situation and restore harmony at home. First, I want you to know there are no problems at the company, Marcus began. Everything is running normally. Emma clapped. Does that mean you don't have to be worried anymore, Daddy? Exactly, Princess. Daddy can be at ease again. And Uncle Daniel too? Asked the girl, with her characteristic innocence. Marcus looked at Daniel, who was visibly embarrassed. Uncle Daniel was just trying to protect our family. Sometimes adults worry more than they should. Like when I was afraid of the dark, but I found out it was just the shadow of the tree on the window, compared Emma. Exactly like that, smiled Marcus. Rachel, who had remained silent, finally spoke up. Marcus, I'm sorry for not talking to you from the start about Daniel's concerns. It's okay. The important thing is we resolved the situation. But I learned an important lesson, continued Rachel. Our communication as a couple should always come first. I completely agree. Daniel stepped forward. Marcus, Rachel, Emma, I want to apologize to the whole family. My approach was completely wrong. Uncle Daniel, said Emma, with her childlike wisdom, at school, the teacher taught that when we make a mistake, we should apologize and try to do better next time. Your niece is very wise, said Daniel, smiling genuinely for the first time in days. And she also taught that family should help each other when someone is in trouble, added Emma. The girl's observation created a perfect opening for Marcus to address Daniel's financial situation. Daniel, about your difficulties with the import business. Marcus, I don't want you to feel obligated to help. I don't feel obligated. I want to help because you're my brother. What kind of help did you have in mind? First, let's analyze your company's situation together. Then we'll see what options we have. You would do that? Of course, but this time, working together from the start, with total transparency. Emma, who had listened attentively to the adults' conversation, got up and gave Daniel a hug. Uncle, now you don't have to be afraid anymore, right? The child's simple gesture touched Daniel deeply, and he was visibly moved. Thank you, Emma. You're right, I don't have to be afraid anymore. In the following days, Marcus and Daniel worked together to understand the import company's situation. They discovered the problems were mainly cash flow management, not a lack of business viability. Daniel, you have products with good demand, reliable suppliers, and established clients, analyzed Marcus. The problem is the timing between payments and receipts. Exactly. Some clients delayed important payments, which created a domino effect. That has a solution. We can restructure payment terms with suppliers and create an emergency reserve fund. Would you lend money for that? Better than that. How about a partnership between our companies? You have experience in imports, I have financial stability and knowledge of the local market. The proposal visibly cheered Daniel. What kind of partnership? Special materials for civil construction. Your company imports, mine distributes and uses in projects. That could work very well. And the best part, working together, I can teach you some financial management techniques I've learned over the years. Marcus, I don't know how to thank you. By being the honest and supportive brother you've always been, and next time you have worries, by talking to me directly. I promise. Rachel, who had observed the entire interaction between the brothers, approached them. I'm proud of both of you, she said. You turned a problem into an opportunity. And Emma? Asked Marcus. What did she think of the situation? She said the family is now fixed and that we can go back to making star-shaped pancakes on Sundays. Everyone laughed at the child's observation, which had indeed perfectly captured the spirit of the family reconciliation. That evening during dinner, Emma made an important announcement. Daddy, Mommy, Uncle Daniel, I want to tell you about my school essay. What essay, sweetie? Asked Rachel. The teacher asked us to write about our family, and I wrote that our family is special because even when the adults get confused, in the end, they always talk and solve everything. And what else did you write? Marcus wanted to know. That my daddy builds houses for other families to live in, that my mommy makes sure our home is full of love, and that Uncle Daniel is learning to work together with Daddy. And about yourself? Asked Daniel. That I'm responsible for observing everything and helping the adults remember the important things. What important things? Laughed Rachel. Like talking instead of worrying alone, like trusting family members, and like asking for help when you're in trouble. The child's wisdom once again surprised everyone present. The teacher said my essay was one of the best in the class, continued Emma proudly, and that I understand a lot about how families work. You really do understand, agreed Marcus, and you helped us a lot these past few days. How? By observing important things and telling us. That helped us discover the truth. And also by giving hugs at the right time, added Daniel, especially that hug that made me stop being afraid. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. In the following weeks, the family established a new routine based on open communication and transparency. Rachel began to take more interest in Marcus's business, not out of distrust, but from wanting to better understand her husband's work. Marcus, can I come with you to the office sometimes? She asked one morning. Of course, that would be great. But why the sudden interest? Because I realize that when I don't understand what you do, I'm more likely to worry for no reason. That makes sense. And maybe you can offer valuable suggestions. You've always had a sharp eye for detail. And Emma? Can we take her occasionally? So she understands from an early age how work functions. Excellent idea. It's never too early to learn about responsibility and teamwork. Daniel, in turn, moved temporarily to an apartment near his brother's house to facilitate collaboration between the companies. The partnership was working better than anyone had imagined. Marcus, I've received 3 proposals from new clients interested in the imported materials, Daniel reported excitedly. Great. And how is the cash flow? Stable for the first time in months. Your advice about an emergency fund was crucial. And are you enjoying working in partnership? Much more than working alone. It's comforting to have someone to discuss important decisions with. For me too. Your international experience is adding a lot to our projects. Emma, observing the collaboration between her father and uncle, decided to create her own family project. Daddy, can I organize meetings for the whole family every week? What kind of meetings, Princess? For us to talk about important things, like you do at work. What kind of important things? Like plans for the weekend, if someone needs help, if there's a problem to solve. Rachel loved the idea. Emma, that's very smart. How about Sunday after lunch? And each person can share one good thing that happened during the week and one thing they want to improve, suggested the girl. Approved unanimously, declared Marcus solemnly. The first official family meeting took place the following Sunday. Emma had prepared a small written agenda with Rachel's help. First agenda item, good things from the week, announced Emma, reading carefully from the sheet of paper. I'll start, offered Marcus. The good thing for my week was seeing that our family is more united than ever. Mine was discovering that I like understanding how the company works, said Rachel. Mine was solving my company's problems with my brother's help, contributed Daniel. And mine was writing a beautiful essay about our family, said Emma proudly. Second agenda item, things to improve, continued the girl. I want to improve my patience when problems arise, said Marcus. Next time, I'll talk more before worrying. I want to participate more in the family's important decisions, declared Rachel. I want to be more direct about my problems without trying to solve everything alone, said Daniel. And I want to learn more difficult words to better understand the adults' conversations, laughed Emma. Third agenda item, plans for next week, read Emma. They planned a visit to the park on Saturday, a special lunch on Sunday, and some joint work activities between Marcus and Daniel. Meeting adjourned, announced Emma, tapping a pencil on the table as if it were a judge's gavel. Everyone applauded, amused by the child's seriousness. Emma, you would be an excellent business leader, commented Daniel. Thank you, but first I want to learn all about how to take care of families. Why families first? Asked Rachel curiously. Because if we don't know how to take good care of the people we love, we won't be able to take good care of other people at work. Once again, the girl's childlike wisdom surprised everyone. During the following months, the family meetings became a beloved tradition. Emma naturally assumed the role of mediator, always helping the family maintain focus on communication and collaborative problem-solving. The partnership between Marcus and Daniel flourished, combining the former's stability and experience with the latter's creativity and international connections. Jonathan and Howard, initially surprised by the arrival of a new partner, soon adapted and came to value Daniel's contributions. Marcus, said Jonathan during a meeting, the partnership with Daniel has elevated our business standard. The clients are impressed with the quality of the imported materials. And our financial organization has improved significantly, added Howard. The controls Daniel implemented are very efficient. The best part is seeing that we all work as a genuine team, observed Marcus, without rigid hierarchies or unnecessary competition. Rachel, who had started visiting the office regularly, decided to contribute more actively. Marcus, how about we create a customer relations department, she suggested. I could coordinate that sector. Do you have experience in that? Not formally, but I've always been good at talking to people and resolving conflicts. And after these past few months, I've learned a lot about the importance of clear communication. That's an excellent idea, agreed Marcus, especially since many of our clients are families building their first homes. Exactly. I can help them better understand the processes and keep them informed about the project's progress. Rachel's initiative was an immediate success. Her empathetic and communicative approach created a significant competitive advantage for the company. Rachel, commented a satisfied client, you've turned the experience of building a house into something much less stressful. How? Asked Rachel. By explaining each step, keeping us informed and most importantly treating our concerns as important. It's just that I know what it's like to be a family depending on the work being done well, replied Rachel, because I'm also a wife and mother. Emma, observing her mother's growing involvement with the family business, decided to voice her opinion during one of the family meetings. Dad, Mom, Uncle Daniel, I have an important observation, she announced solemnly. Go ahead, Princess, encouraged Marcus. I think our family is becoming a real team. Why do you say that? Asked Rachel. Because now everyone works together, everyone talks about problems, and everyone helps when someone needs it. And is that good or bad? Daniel wanted to know. Very good. Because when we're a team, we're stronger than when everyone is on their own. She's right, agreed Marcus. The last few months have proven that. And also, continued Emma, when we work as a team, we can help other families be happy too. How so? Asked Rachel. Like Mom helping the people who will live in the houses Dad builds, or Uncle Daniel bringing beautiful things from other places to make the houses even better. The child's integrated vision of how the family's work benefited others deeply touched everyone. Emma, you've helped us discover something very important, said Marcus, that our work has a greater purpose than just making money. What purpose? Asked the girl. To help other families have safe and beautiful homes where they can grow and be happy. Like us. Exactly. Inspired by Emma's observations, the family decided to implement some social initiatives in the company. "How about we offer free consultations for low-income families on construction planning?" suggested Rachel. "Excellent idea," supported Marcus. "We can hold monthly workshops on family budgeting for construction." "And I can teach about importing materials for small business owners," added Daniel, sharing knowledge on how to reduce costs through buying cooperatives. "And I can help by drawing pretty houses for the kids to color during the workshops," offered Emma. The first community workshop took place on a Saturday morning at the neighborhood community center. To the family's surprise, over 50 interested people showed up. "I'll explain how to plan a construction without going into debt beyond your means," began Marcus. For 2 hours, he, Rachel, and Daniel shared practical knowledge about construction, financing, and importing materials. Emma handed out her drawings to the children present and helped serve the snacks Rachel had prepared. "It was better than we imagined," commented Rachel afterward. "And more rewarding," added Daniel, seeing how ordinary people got excited about the possibility of achieving their dream of home ownership. "Can we do this every month?" asked Emma. "Of course, Princess. It will be our contribution to the community." In the following months, the community workshops became popular in the region. Several families were able to start construction or renovation projects using the shared knowledge. "Marcus, Rachel, Daniel," said Mrs. Dorothy, a 60-year-old woman who had attended the lectures, "thanks to your guidance, I managed to renovate my house without going into debt." "How did you do it, Mrs. Dorothy?" asked Rachel, interested. "By following the schedule you taught, buying materials through a cooperative, as Daniel suggested, and most importantly, not rushing." "And how is the result?" "Wonderful. My granddaughter now has her own room, and I have a new kitchen I always dreamed of." "Mrs. Dorothy," said Emma, who had overheard the conversation, "can I see your new house?" "Of course, my dear, and I want to show you the drawings you made, stuck on the refrigerator." These interactions with the community further strengthened family bonds and gave new meaning to everyone's work. "Rachel," Marcus commented one night, "when I look at where we were a few months ago and where we are now, it feels like we've lived years of growth. It's true, and most importantly, we grew as people and as a family." "What do you think changed the most?" "How we deal with problems. Before, everyone kept their worries to themselves. Now we face everything together." And Daniel, "I think he discovered he doesn't have to carry the world alone, and that having family means you can count on help when you need it." And Emma was always wise, but now she has more space to express that wisdom and see that the adults really listen to her ideas. "What about the two of us?" Rachel smiled. "I think we discovered that marriage and family work better when there's total transparency and when everyone contributes their unique talents." "I completely agree." "Marcus, can I ask you a question?" "Always." "Do you regret anything about how we handled Daniel's situation?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "I don't regret the final outcome, but I wish I had been more direct from the start instead of letting the distrust grow." "Me too. But maybe we needed to go through all that to learn these lessons." "Perhaps. And Emma played a key role in helping us see things differently. It's amazing how a 5-year-old can have such clarity about human relationships. I think it's because she hasn't yet learned to complicate simple things. For her, family means helping, talking, and taking care of each other." And she's right. A few weeks later, during one of the Sunday family meetings, Emma made a special announcement. "Daddy, Mommy, Uncle Daniel, I have an important proposal." "What proposal?" asked Marcus, curious. "I think our family is ready for a special project." "What kind of project?" Patricia wanted to know. "A house for us." Everyone was surprised. "But we already have a house, Emma," said Marcus. "I know, but our house was bought before Uncle Daniel became part of the work family. Now that we're a team, we should have a house made especially for our family." The child's logic was irrefutable. "Emma is right," Daniel agreed. "Our partnership changed our family dynamic. Maybe it's time to create a space that reflects this new reality." "What kind of house do you imagine?" asked Rachel. "A house where everyone has their own spaces, but also where we can work together when needed," explained Emma, "and with a special place to welcome people from the community." "A shared home office," suggested Marcus, "and a big room for family meetings and for lectures when it's raining," added Emma. And a garden where we can plant beautiful things, Rachel finished. The idea took shape during the following conversations. It wouldn't be a change out of necessity, but a choice to evolve along with the family they had become. If we're really going to build a new house, said Marcus, how about we do it using everything we've learned these past few months? How so? Asked Daniel. Transparent family planning, constant communication, making the most of everyone's talents. And consulting the community about sustainable ideas, suggested Rachel. And making the house beautiful inside and out, added Emma. And documenting the whole process to teach other families, finished Daniel. The new house project became a practical example of everything they had learned about teamwork, family communication, and social responsibility. Emma actively participated in the planning, suggesting creative solutions for integrating the spaces. Rachel coordinated the research on sustainable materials and communication with suppliers. Daniel applied his knowledge of imports to secure special materials at fair prices. Marcus integrated all the technical and administrative aspects. This will be the first house built by Henderson Family LLC, joked Emma during a planning meeting. Henderson Family LLC, laughed Marcus. Our family business. Everyone does what they do best, but we all work toward the same goal. And what is our goal? Asked Rachel. To build homes where families can be happy and grow together. During the months of building the new house, the family documented each stage of the process. Rachel wrote a blog about the challenges and joys of building as a family. Marcus explained the technical decisions. Daniel detailed the processes for importing special materials. Emma sketched the progress and interviewed the workers about their own families. Mr. Frank, Emma asked the foreman, do you enjoy building houses? I sure do, young lady. Every house I build is a family that's going to be happy. How do you know they'll be happy? Because when a family works together to plan the house, like you all are doing, it means they truly care for each other. And houses made by people who care for each other turn out more beautiful. Much more beautiful. And more lasting too. Emma reported this conversation at the next family meeting. Mr. Frank said something very important, she observed, that houses built with love become stronger. How so? Asked Marcus. Because when a family works together, they pay more attention to every detail. And when they pay attention, they do everything better. She's right, agreed Daniel. We're being much more careful in this construction than I normally would be. Because every decision affects the whole family, added Rachel, so we want every choice to be the best possible. And also because we know other families will learn from our example, said Marcus. That gives us more responsibility. The move to the new house happened on a sunny Saturday, with the help of several friends from the community who had followed the project. Mrs. Dorothy, said Emma, would you like to see our new house? Of course, my dear. I want to see how those ideas you drew turned out. During the visit, Emma proudly explained each room and its function. This is our family meeting room. It's where we talk about everything that's important. And this is the shared office where Dad, Mum and Uncle Daniel work together. Here is the community kitchen where we can prepare food for many people when we give our talks. And this is my room, which has a window to the garden where we can plant flowers and vegetables. Emma, said Mrs. Dorothy, impressed, you all built more than a house. They built a place to grow as a family. Exactly, the girl agreed, and to help other families grow too. The housewarming party brought together over 100 people from the community. Instead of gifts, the family asked guests to bring ideas for future community projects. Our house is ready, announced Marcus during the party, but our work as a family and as part of this community is just beginning. What kind of work? Someone from the audience asked. We want to create a support center for families who are planning to build or renovate their homes, explained Rachel. With free courses, a library of plans and materials, and personalized consulting, added Daniel. And support groups for children whose families are going through changes, completed Emma. The proposal was met with enthusiasm by the community. Several people offered to contribute specific knowledge or volunteer work. You've turned a family conflict situation into something that benefits the entire community, observed the local church priest. How did you manage to do that? Asked a young mother. Mainly through 3 things, replied Marcus: honest communication, making use of each person's talents and focusing on goals bigger than just our own interests. And also by listening to the children, added Rachel. They often see solutions that adults can't see. Emma has been our family wisdom consultant, laughed Daniel. I'm not a consultant, Uncle Daniel, corrected Emma. I'm part of the team. Everyone laughed and applauded the child's correction. In the following months, the Family Support Center developed naturally. The Henderson family home became a reference point in the community for families needing guidance on construction, financing, or resolving family conflicts. Rachel, commented a visitor, how do you manage to help so many people without getting tired? Because we discovered that when we help other families, our own family grows stronger, replied Rachel. How does that work? When we see other couples overcoming communication difficulties, we remember to keep improving our own communication. When we help children express their ideas, Emma feels valued for already doing that in our family. And when we teach about teamwork, added Marcus, we ourselves practice those skills constantly. It's like a school where everyone learns together, said Emma, adults and children. During one of the weekends, the family received a special visit. Jonathan and Howard came to see the new house and better understand the community project. Marcus, the company has evolved a lot since Daniel joined us, observed Jonathan, but this community initiative is impressive. How do you balance work, family, and social responsibility? Asked Howard. Actually, we discovered it doesn't need balancing, explained Daniel. When you integrate everything coherently, one area strengthens the other. How so? The teamwork we learned at the company improved our family communication. Family communication improved our work efficiency, and both prepared us to contribute better to the community. And the community teaches us things we apply in the family and at work, completed Emma. For example, asked Jonathan curiously. Mrs. Dorothy taught us that sometimes it's better to do things slowly but carefully. Mr. Frank taught us that every project has its own personality. The school teacher taught us that children can contribute important ideas. Emma, you're becoming a philosopher, joked Howard. I don't know what a philosopher is, but I like to think about how people can be happier. Jonathan and Howard were so impressed with the project that they decided to get more actively involved. We can contribute the educational part about financial management for families, offered Howard. And I can coordinate construction volunteer days for families who need help with labor, suggested Jonathan. The company team naturally transformed into a broader community support network. We're creating a different kind of company model, observed Marcus during a meeting, where success is measured not just by financial profit, but by positive social impact. And is that economically sustainable? Asked Jonathan, concerned. More sustainable than the traditional model, replied Daniel, because it creates genuine customer loyalty, extra team motivation, and community recognition. Not to mention that when we help other families complete construction projects, we create future customers, added Rachel. And people who recommend our work to acquaintances, completed Emma. How do you know that, Princess? Asked Marcus, surprised. Because I listen to people talking. They always tell their friends when someone really helps them. The 6-year-old's business wisdom impressed even the most experienced adults. 2 years after moving to the new house, the Henderson family had become a regional reference in sustainable construction and corporate social responsibility. Emma, now 7 years old, continued to actively participate in family and business decisions. Daddy, she said during a family meeting, I have an idea for our company. What idea, my love? How about we teach other companies to work like families? How so? Like this. Other construction companies could learn from what we've discovered about teamwork, better communication, and helping the community. Emma is suggesting we create a business consulting program based on family values, translated Rachel. Exactly, agreed Emma, because if more companies worked like happy families, more people would be happy at work. The child's suggestion gave rise to what would become a new branch of the company, Family Business Management Consulting. Marcus, said a businessman who attended the first workshop, your family has developed something revolutionary. How can I apply these principles in my company? First, by establishing transparent communication across all hierarchical levels, explained Marcus. Second, by leveraging the unique talents of each employee, not just their official roles, added Rachel. Third, by creating goals that benefit not only the company but also the community, said Daniel. And fourth, by listening to everyone's ideas, including the youngest people, completed Emma. The youngest people? Asked the businessman. Yes. Employees who just arrived sometimes have ideas that people who have worked there a long time can't see. Like children in a family, compared Marcus, they often notice things that adults have gotten used to ignoring. In the following years, the Henderson family model influenced dozens of companies in the region. Many adopted more humanized management practices, active social responsibility, and the inclusion of diverse perspectives in decision-making. You've created a significant cultural shift, observed a journalist who came to do a story on the family. Actually, we just applied basic principles of how healthy families function to the business world, replied Marcus. Which principles specifically? Honest communication, said Rachel. Cooperation instead of competition, added Daniel. Mutual care, said Marcus. And always remember that the goal is for everyone to be well, not just some people, Emma concluded. The journalist was impressed by the child's clarity. Emma, do you want to work in the family business when you grow up? Maybe, but first I want to learn other things too. What kind of things? Like how to take care of animals, how to teach children, how to make tasty food for lots of people. Why those things? Because all those things teach about taking good care of other people, and taking good care of people is the most important thing in any job. The article, when published, generated national interest in the family business model developed by the Henderson family. Marcus, we're getting invitations to give talks in several cities, reported Rachel. And partnership proposals with other family businesses, added Daniel. Can we do all that without losing focus on our family and our community? Asked Marcus. Only if we take Emma along, joked Daniel. She's our expert at keeping focus on what really matters. Can I really go? Asked Emma excitedly. Of course, Princess. You're an essential part of our team. And also because other families need to see that children can have important ideas, added Rachel. During the first talk in another city, Emma caught the audience's attention when she explained her vision of family businesses. A family business isn't a business where only people from the same family work, she said into the microphone. It's a business where everyone is treated as if they were family. How so? Asked someone from the audience. Like this. When someone has a problem, everyone helps. When someone has a good idea, everyone listens. When someone makes a mistake, everyone teaches instead of fighting. And when someone does something good, asked another person, everyone is happy together. Like when I get a good grade at school and my whole family celebrates. The simplicity and wisdom of Emma's explanations deeply moved the audience. This child understands people management better than many administrators I know, commented a businessman after the talk. At the hotel, during dinner, the family reflected on the impact of the presentation. Emma, how did you feel talking to so many people? Asked Rachel. Cool, but also a little nervous at first. And how did you know what to say? I just talked about how our family works, and how good it would be if other families worked like that too. Do you think we managed to help those people? Asked Marcus. I think so, because I saw a lot of people making a wow, I never thought of that face when I was explaining. Wow, I never thought of that face, laughed Daniel. Yes, like when someone discovers something important that was always right in front of them, but they hadn't noticed. And what do you think they discovered? Rachel wanted to know. That working can be as good as playing if people are kind to each other. Emma, said Marcus, impressed, you summed up in one sentence what many consultants take hours to explain. It's because it's really simple. Adults are the ones who like to complicate things. In the following months, the family developed a structured family business consulting program, always with Emma actively participating in the presentations. Her unique perspective brought insights that surprised even business management experts. Emma, asked a CEO during a workshop, how do you think we should resolve conflicts between employees? The same way we resolve conflicts in my family, she replied naturally. First, everyone stops and listens to what each person is feeling. Then everyone talks about how it can be better, and in the end, everyone gives a hug and goes back to being friends. And if the employees don't want to hug? Asked another participant. So they still don't understand they're on the same team, said Emma, because teammates always look out for each other. How do you teach that to adults who are used to competing with one another? Emma thought for a moment before answering. Maybe by starting with projects where they need to work together to help other people. Because when you help someone alongside another person, you become friends. Like at our company, Daniel gave as an example. When we started helping families in the community, our own team became more united. Exactly, agreed Emma. Helping other people teaches us how to be a friend. The workshop ended with several business owners committing to implement social projects in their companies as a way to strengthen their internal teams. You have just witnessed business consulting from a completely new perspective, observed a human resources specialist, based on principles of positive family psychology. Emma, asked a journalist, do you have plans to write a book about your ideas? I don't know how to write books yet, replied Emma, but I can draw a book with pictures and simple explanations. Emma's idea for a picture book became a real project. With Rachel's help to write the explanations and Marcus's help to organize the concepts, Emma created an illustrated guide about how to make companies happy. The book, when published, became surprisingly popular among managers seeking more humanized approaches to leadership. This is the first business management manual written by a child, commented a reviewer, and maybe that's why it's so clear and practical. Each page of the book contained a drawing by Emma illustrating a business concept, accompanied by a simple explanation and a practical example from the family business. Page about listening to everyone. Drawing of people talking in a circle. Explanation. When everyone can share their ideas, the ideas get better. Example. At our company, even I can give suggestions, and sometimes the adults use my ideas. Page about helping when someone has a problem. Drawing of people helping each other. Explanation. When someone is struggling, it's better to teach than to get angry. Example. When Uncle Daniel was having problems, Dad taught him instead of getting mad. Page about celebrating good things together. Drawing of a party. Explanation. When someone does something good, everyone gets happy. Example. When our company finishes a project, the whole team celebrates, not just the bosses. The book's success brought invitations to appear on television programs and international conferences on family business management. Emma, asked a TV host, what's it like to be so young and already influence so many companies? It's cool, but it's also normal, Emma replied naturally. Because all kids know these things, I just had adults who listened. What advice would you give to other children who have important ideas? That they talk to the adults in their family, and if those adults don't listen, that they try talking to other adults like teachers. And what advice would you give to adults? That they listen to children more often, because we pay attention to things you sometimes forget to notice. What kind of things? Like when someone is sad, or when someone is being left out, or when there's a simpler solution to a problem. The interview generated millions of online views and inspired many families to include children in discussions about work and family responsibilities. Rachel, commented a mother who watched the program, your daughter inspired me to talk with my 8-year-old son about the family business. I discovered he had amazing ideas we had never considered. What kind of ideas? Asked Rachel curiously. About how to make our restaurant more welcoming for families with children. He suggested simple things, like having colored pencils on the tables and a corner with children's books. And did you implement the suggestions? Yes, and traffic increased significantly, especially on weekends when many families come for lunch. Emma will be happy to know she inspired other children to contribute to their families. Stories like this became common. The family model developed by the Hendersons was influencing families in various areas of activity. You've created a social movement without realizing it, observed a sociologist studying the impact of the family's talks. How so? Asked Marcus. You've demonstrated that it's possible to integrate family life, business success, and social responsibility harmoniously. This is inspiring a new generation of family entrepreneurs. And what is the specific differentiator of your model? a researcher wanted to know. The active participation of children in family and business decisions, replied Daniel. This creates a unique perspective on long-term sustainability. How so? Children naturally think about future consequences, explained Rachel. They ask things like, what if this doesn't work? Or, how will we know if it's working? Or, will other people be happy too? Emma often asks that kind of question, confirmed Marcus. And it often helps us think about aspects we hadn't considered. For example, when we decided to expand the community program, Emma asked, "Are you sure you'll be able to keep helping all the people well?" That question made us rethink the pace of growth. During the 5th year of the community program, the family took stock of the results achieved. Over 200 families participated in our talks and workshops, reported Rachel. 83 construction or renovation projects were successfully completed using our guidance, added Marcus. 15 companies in the region adopted family business management practices, said Daniel. And most importantly, Emma completed, a bunch of families learned to talk better about their problems. How do you know that, Princess? Because when I meet children on the street, they tell me that now their parents listen to their ideas about important things. And does that make you happy? Very much, because when adults and children work together, everyone gets smarter. Emma's wisdom continued to surprise everyone, but now her family had learned to consistently value and apply her perspectives. Emma, said Rachel during a family meeting, do you remember what our family was like before that situation with Uncle Daniel? A little bit. Why? Because I want you to know how important it was to have you observing everything and telling us what you saw. I just did what I thought was right. And that doing what you thought was right saved our family from a big misunderstanding, said Marcus. And taught us lessons that completely changed our lives, added Daniel. What lessons? That problems are opportunities to become closer, said Rachel. That every person in the family has important contributions, said Marcus. That working together is more efficient than working alone, said Daniel. And that helping other families makes our own family stronger, Emma completed. Exactly, they all agreed. So, said Emma thoughtfully, does that mean all that confusion was a good thing? It was a difficult thing that turned into something very good, corrected Marcus, because we faced it together and learned from the experience. Like when I fall off my bike but learn to balance better? Exactly like that, smiled Rachel. So maybe other problems that come up can also turn into good things. Probably yes, if we keep facing everything together and talking about everything, said Daniel. Great, because that way our family keeps growing and learning. Emma's optimistic and constructive perspective on future challenges reflected the maturity the entire family had achieved. Marcus, said Rachel that evening, sometimes I think about how different things would be if we hadn't listened to Emma from the start. We'd probably still be dealing with distrust and misunderstandings, and Daniel might still be struggling alone with his financial problems, and we wouldn't have discovered how rewarding it is to work as a family and help the community. It's amazing how a small child can be the key to so many positive transformations. I think it's because she always saw our family as a team, while we adults tended to think in individual terms, and also because she never lost sight of the goal, which is for everyone to be well. Exactly. We complicated things with pride, fear, distrust. She simplified them with love, care, and common sense. Shall we keep learning from her? Always. And teaching what we've learned to other families too. Because this cycle of learning and teaching is what keeps our family growing together. And that's what Emma values most, growing together. In the following years, the Henderson family became a national example of how to integrate business success, family harmony, and social responsibility. Emma, now a preteen, maintained her active participation in family and business decisions, but also developed her own interests. Dad, Mom, Uncle Daniel, she announced during a family meeting, I have important news. What news? Asked Marcus. I've decided I want to study psychology when I grow up. Why psychology? Rachel wanted to know. Because I've discovered I like understanding why people act in certain ways and how to help them relate better. That connects with everything you already do in our family and company, observed Daniel. Exactly. And I want to learn more about it so I can help more people. Emma, said Marcus, do you realize you've been practicing family psychology for years? How so? Observing behaviors, identifying communication problems, suggesting solutions that benefit everyone. That's true, but I want to learn to do it even better. And will you keep participating in the family business? Asked Rachel. Of course, but maybe in a different way, as a specialist in family business relations. Have you thought about what that would look like in practice? Yes, I could help other families who have businesses together but have communication problems or conflicts. Like a consultant specializing in family business dynamics, translated Daniel. Yes, and I could also research how happy families can create more humane businesses. Emma's vision for her professional future was perfectly aligned with the values and experiences they had built together as a family. Emma, said Marcus, moved, you've turned our personal experience into a life mission. Because I discovered our family is special, and that other families can learn to be special too. What makes our family special in your opinion? That everyone listens to everyone, that everyone helps when someone needs it, and that everyone celebrates when good things happen. And that everyone always remembers the goal is for us to be well together, added Rachel. Exactly, and it's so simple that any family can do it. So your future work will be teaching that simplicity to other families. Yes, because happy families make the whole world happier. With this clear vision for the future, Emma continued participating in family and business activities, but now with the additional perspective of preparing for a career dedicated to strengthening families. During an international lecture on family businesses, Emma, now 12 years old, was invited to speak about her unique experience. Emma, asked a moderator, after years of participating in your family's business decisions, what advice would you give to other business families? First, include children in important conversations because they see things adults sometimes miss. Second, always remember that family comes before business because if the family isn't well, the business won't be either. Third, use the business to strengthen the family, not to create competition among members. And fourth, never forget that the ultimate goal is for everyone to grow together and be happy. Emma's maturity and clarity impressed the international audience. How has your family managed to maintain this harmony over the years? Asked a Japanese businessman. By having family meetings every week where each person can talk about anything that is worrying or making them happy, replied Emma. And always remembering that problems are opportunities to become closer, not to drift apart. And when you disagree about something important, we talk until we understand everyone's point of view. Sometimes it takes a while, but we always reach a solution that is good for everyone. Does that really work even on complex business issues? Yes, it does. Because when everyone understands the problem and participates in the solution, everyone works harder to make the solution succeed. After the lecture, several business families sought out the Hendersons for personalized consulting. Our family business is going through conflicts between generations, explained a businessman. How would you handle that situation? First, we would gather all generations to talk about their specific concerns, suggested Marcus. Then we would identify the common goals everyone shares, added Rachel. Next, we would develop a plan that leverages the strengths of each generation, said Daniel. And most importantly, Emma concluded, we would remind everyone that they are family first, business people second. How do you put that into practice? By creating regular spaces for family conversations outside the work environment, suggested Rachel. By establishing clear roles for each person based on their skills and interests, said Marcus. And always making decisions while thinking about how they will affect the family in the long term, finished Emma. This family business consulting model became the main service offered by the Henderson family, complementing their construction work and community programs. We are creating a legacy that goes far beyond building houses, observed Daniel during a family reflection. We are teaching families how to build solid relationships, agreed Rachel, and showing that business success and family harmony can go hand in hand, added Marcus, and that children have important contributions to make if adults know how to listen, Emma completed. 15 years after that afternoon when Emma whispered, "Quiet, Dad, they're listening," the Henderson family had become a national reference in family business integration. Emma, now studying psychology, continued to actively participate in family activities, but also developed academic research on family dynamics in business contexts. My final course project will be about the impact of children's participation in family business decisions, she announced during a family meeting. Based on our experience? Asked Marcus. Primarily, but also studying other families who followed our model. What results do you expect to find? That families who include children in important decisions develop more effective communication, resolve conflicts more quickly, and create more sustainable businesses. And that the children themselves become adults better prepared for collaborative leadership, added Rachel. Exactly, because they grow up practicing communication skills, teamwork, and problem-solving. Emma's research confirmed her hypotheses and was recognized as a pioneering study in the field. Emma, said her advisor, your work is creating a new field of study, family business psychology. That's great. It means other people will be able to research and teach about this too, and that more families will be able to benefit from the knowledge your family developed. That was always our goal, that our experience could help other families be happier. When Emma graduated in psychology, the family organized a party that brought together hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by the Hendersons' work over the years. Emma, said Mrs. Dorothy, now 75 years old, you transformed a curious girl into a professional who will help many families. Mrs. Dorothy, I really just kept doing what I've always done, paying attention to people and trying to help when I can. But now you have scientific knowledge to do it even better. That's true. And I also have the example of my own family to show that these ideas really work. During her graduation speech, Emma made a statement that summarized the entire family journey. I learned that families function better when all members are heard, respected, and included in important decisions. I learned that businesses function better when they operate with family values, mutual care, honest communication, and shared goals. And I learned that communities thrive when families and businesses take responsibility for collective well-being. Today, I commit to dedicating my career to teaching other families that it is possible to have business success, family harmony, and positive social impact simultaneously. Because our family proved that when we face challenges together, with love and open communication, we can turn any difficulty into an opportunity for growth. The speech was interrupted several times by emotional applause from the audience, which included not only family and friends, but also dozens of people whose lives had been transformed by the Henderson family's work. After the ceremony, Marcus, Rachel, and Daniel gathered with Emma for a special conversation. Emma, said Marcus, 20 years ago, you were a 5-year-old girl who warned me about a suspicious conversation. Today, you are a qualified professional who will help families in situations similar to what we experienced. How do you feel about this transformation? Emma reflected for a moment before answering. I feel our family has completed a full cycle, she said finally. We started by facing a problem of communication and trust. We learned to solve these problems by working together, and now we will teach other families to do the same. And what is the most important part of this journey for you? Asked Rachel. Discovering that family problems don't have to destroy families. They can make them stronger if faced with love and communication. And that every person in the family, regardless of age, has important contributions to make, added Daniel. Exactly. And that when families work well together, they can help many other people be happy too. So our next chapter will be you professionally applying everything we learned together, asked Marcus. Our next chapter, Emma corrected, because you will continue with me on this mission, only now as an even more experienced and qualified team. Emma's vision for the future perfectly reflected the values they had built together as a family. Teamwork, inclusion of all perspectives, and a focus on collective well-being. In the following years, Emma's family business psychology practice, supported by the family's practical experience, became an international reference. Families from various countries sought her services to resolve conflicts, improve communication, and successfully integrate family values with business success. Dr. Emma, a client said during a session, how can our family develop the same harmony that your family demonstrates? Starting with small steps, Emma replied, like creating regular moments for honest family conversations. And then? Practicing active listening, each person truly listening and trying to understand the other's point of view. Next, identifying the unique talents of each family member and creating opportunities for them to be utilized. And always remembering that the goal is to grow together, not compete against each other. Does this work even when there are business interests involved? Especially when there are business interests involved, Emma assured, because sustainable businesses need solid relationships. And if we start this when the children are still young, even better. Children who grow up participating in important family decisions become adults with excellent communication skills and collaborative leadership. During an international conference on family businesses, Emma presented the results of 15 years of research and clinical practice. Our research followed 200 business-owning families that implemented the integral participation model, she reported. The results show that 94% of these families reported significant improvement in family communication. 89% managed to resolve business conflicts collaboratively instead of adversarially. 82% expanded their businesses sustainably while maintaining family values. And 76% developed social responsibility programs that strengthened both the company and the family. Most importantly, Emma continued, the children in these families demonstrated leadership, communication, and problem-solving skills significantly above average. This suggests the model not only solves present problems, but also prepares future generations for more effective and humane leadership. The presentation generated worldwide interest, resulting in invitations to implement the model in universities, business consultancies, and government family support programs. Emma, commented a Harvard professor, your family has created something that could revolutionize how we think about business management and family development. Actually, we merely systematized principles that healthy families have always known, Emma replied modestly, but you did it in a way that can be taught and replicated on a large scale. That was always our goal, for our experience to benefit as many people as possible. And you succeeded. We estimate your model has directly influenced over 1,000 families, and indirectly thousands more. On the 20th anniversary of that afternoon when it all began, the Henderson family organized a special celebration. 20 years ago, said Marcus in his speech, our family faced a crisis of communication and trust. Today, we help hundreds of families successfully face similar crises. The difference was a 5-year-old girl who had the courage to tell what she observed, and a family who had the wisdom to listen to her. Emma, he addressed his daughter, now a respected 35-year-old professional, you saved our family and, without knowing it, created a life mission for all of us. Emma stood up to respond. Dad, Mom, Uncle Daniel, she began emotionally, you taught me that problems are opportunities, that communication is the foundation of everything, and that strong families can change the world. Today, our family is no longer just the 4 of us. It is a network of hundreds of families who have learned to communicate better, work together and care for one another. And it all started one afternoon when I whispered in Dad's ear that I was hearing strange things. Who could have imagined that moment of distrust would transform into 2 decades of trust, love and service to other families? It taught me that no matter how small or insignificant a problem or a contribution may seem, what matters is how we choose to handle it. Our family chose to handle everything through love, communication, and teamwork, and that made all the difference. The celebration gathered not only the immediate family, but also Jonathan, Howard, Mrs. Dorothy, now 80 years old, dozens of families who had participated in the community programs, and many professionals who had implemented the family business model in their own organizations. This is living proof that a united family can create a positive impact far beyond its own borders, observed a sociologist present at the celebration. During the party, Emma announced her next initiative. I am writing a definitive book on family business psychology, she said, but this time it won't be just my perspective. How so? Asked Rachel curiously. I want to include stories from all the families who have worked with us over the years. to show that our model works in different contexts and cultures, and also to demonstrate that every family can adapt the principles to their own reality, she added. Exactly. The book will be called Families That Transform: How Communication and Collaboration Create Sustainable Success. Will it include our original story? Asked Daniel. Of course, as the first chapter, showing that great transformations can start with small acts of courage and honesty. Like a 5-year-old girl telling her father what she was observing, said Marcus, smiling. Exactly. And like a family that decided to face problems together instead of hiding them from each other. The book, when published 2 years later, became an international bestseller and a reference text in business schools and family therapy programs. More importantly, it inspired thousands of families around the world to adopt more open and collaborative communication practices. Emma, said a reader during a book launch event, your book saved my family. We were destroying ourselves due to lack of communication, but the exercises in your book taught us how to really talk. How did it happen? We started by having weekly family meetings like you do. At first it was difficult, but gradually we learned to express our feelings without attacking each other. And then we discovered that many of our conflicts were misunderstandings that could be resolved simply by talking honestly. Today, our family business is thriving. Our children feel valued and heard, and our family is genuinely happy. Stories like this became common. The model developed by the Henderson family had created a global movement of families committed to authentic communication and genuine collaboration. On the 30th anniversary of her psychology graduation, Emma was invited to receive a special tribute in recognition of her contribution to the field of family business psychology. Dr. Emma Henderson, announced the dean, created a new paradigm that demonstrates how healthy families can be the foundation for ethical and sustainable businesses. Her work has influenced not only family psychology, but also areas such as management, sociology, and public policy. Today, we honor not only her professional career, but the living example that united families can create transformative positive impact on society. During her acceptance speech, Emma reflected on her family's journey. When I was 5 years old, I warned my father about a suspicious conversation I had overheard, she began. At that moment, I just wanted to protect our family. I had no idea I was starting a journey that would transform our lives and the lives of so many others. Today, 40 years later, I understand that moment taught us the most important lesson, that problems are opportunities to grow closer together if we choose to face them with courage and love. Our family proved that honest communication, inclusive participation, and a focus on collective well-being can create successes that go far beyond material achievements. We proved it is possible to have family harmony, business success, and positive social impact simultaneously. And most importantly, we proved that when families function well, they naturally contribute to a better world. Therefore, I dedicate this honor to all families who have the courage to talk honestly about their challenges, work together to find solutions, and use their strengths to help other families. Because the future of humanity depends on strong families, and strong families are built with love, communication, and mutual commitment. The speech was met with a prolonged standing ovation, reflecting the profound impact the Henderson family's story had on the audience. After the ceremony, Marcus, Rachel, and Daniel joined Emma for an intimate celebration. Emma, said Rachel, you transformed our personal experience into a legacy that will impact generations. We all transformed it, corrected Emma. I just had the privilege of systematizing and sharing what we learned together. And what do you consider the most important lesson from this entire journey? Asked Marcus. That love multiplies when it is shared, replied Emma without hesitation. How so? When our family learned to love each other in a more mature way, with honest communication, mutual respect, and genuine collaboration, that love naturally overflowed into our community. And when we taught other families to love each other in that way, they also began to overflow love into their own communities. So, creating loving families is actually creating a more loving world, observed Daniel. Exactly. And it all started with our family's decision to face problems together instead of hiding them from each other. A decision that a 5-year-old girl helped us make, recalled Marcus, smiling. Because even young children instinctively know that family means taking care of each other, said Emma. And our task as adults is to create structures and practices that allow that natural care to flourish. That night, before going to sleep, Emma looked out the window of her apartment and reflected on the extraordinary journey her family had traveled. 40 years earlier, she was a curious child who had noticed something suspicious and decided to tell her father. Today, she was an internationally recognized professional whose life was dedicated to helping families communicate better and support each other. But what mattered most to her wasn't the professional accolades or the social impact of her work. What mattered most was knowing that her family had proven that love, communication, and collaboration can overcome any challenge, and that this lesson was now available to any family who chose to apply it. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered to herself, for listening to a 5-year-old girl when she said, "Be quiet, Dad, they're listening." Thank you, family, for turning a moment of distrust into decades of love and service. And thank you, life, for showing us that happy families can truly change the world. With this gratitude in her heart, Emma fell asleep knowing that the next day she would continue the work that had become her life's mission, helping families discover they are capable of far greater love, success, and impact than they imagine. Because her own family had proven that when people who love each other decide to work together, there is no limit to the good they can do in the world. And it had all started with an observant little girl who had the courage to tell the truth, and a family who had the wisdom to listen to her with love. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Emma took the right action by telling her father what she had heard? We would love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories.